Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. We are the RPGeeks. We are all professional science nerds, and we really love playing Dungeons and Dragons. That is not enough for us, though. We also love talking about science, so we have combined our loves. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about some of the science that came up in our sort of last adventure / the one before that. Something's got a bit pushed back. Yeah. There's usually four of us, but we are tragically missing Ali today. I hear rumors that he's having a very fun time somewhere.
I reckon about 10 tequilas down by now.
We definitely didn't give him a bunch of very confusing instructions.
Yeah.
It was like, drink water, but alternate them in this order. A, B, A, B, 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 A. Make sure that none of the Bs are caffeinated.
But if you're watching on video, you'll see we've got a gorgeous portrait of him to replace his usual place on the screen.
This better not awaken anything in me. He does make a good deer, I've got to say. Like, I also noticed his hair colour is almost exactly the same colour as the deer.
It blends beautifully.
That's a beautiful match. Well, it's deliberate. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll put that on the Instagram, Simon. Can you send that over for me?
You should.
Sure.
On all the social media. You should follow us for gems like that.
We are huge on TikTok, apparently.
Yeah, the kids love us.
Huge on TikTok. But we have a TikTok.
Huge, I tell you. A lot of people fancy Ali. You can talk about it because he's not here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people being like, is he single?
And everyone's like, he's so cute. I mean, he was being really cute. He got all excited about science. It was all nerdy. Yeah. It's like our USP, so this is good. Right, let's introduce yourselves.
I was going to say, who are you people?
Before we get into the topics. Yeah, so I will go first. My name is Shamini. I use she/her pronouns. I play a sorcerer on the show, which is not really relevant to this, but in my usual life, I am a science journalist with a big love of paleontology, which will be relevant for this. Simon?
Oh, I realised I was pointing at Emily on my screen, but it wasn't the same as on the Zoom call. Yes, hello everybody. My name's Simon. I use stressed out pronouns, and I play Uriel in the show, and who's a dwarven monk. And I what information did you put in? I may have slightly blacked out over the past 30 seconds. What did you actually say, Shamini?
I said what I do for a job and my interests.
Oh yeah, that stuff.
Age, sex, location.
I am allegedly a professional YouTuber and Twitch streamer and now author. Which is wild. Getting used to appending that one to the end of the list. But yeah, I mostly do videos on science and specifically climate stuff. And that leaves the last voice in this call.
Hello, it's me, Emily, or Bates. They'll call me both. Don't get confused. I, too, am a science video person, maker thing. And I play Infinite Skies 6000 in our game. And she is a droid. I use she/her pronouns. And Shamini's interests are paleontology. Mine are obviously genital pain, so I'll be talking about that today.
That definitely sounded like gentle pain, which I know for a fact is not what you mean. That's been the big hype thing, right? Because this was
it's been a long time coming.
Shamini, can you recap why we're talking about genital pain?
Do we want to do? I wanted to do my large birds first, but
all right, yeah.
We're going to wrap people up on genital pain a little bit longer.
Sure. Well, Bates, why are we talking about large birds? What happened in the last episode?
Oh, well, so in the last episode, our three adventurers, we started making our journey finally towards the mines, much to Ali's delight, I think.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. And we got on a big truck and we started driving down this road and we saw, or my character looked up and saw, a bird in the sky. How lovely, a lovely silhouette of a bird. The silhouette got bigger and bigger and bigger until Ali described it as the size of a 747. Did we work out?
It has an 80-meter wingspan. I found my
80 meters. 80 meters, which is too big. And we fought it. And I think we killed it, which was bizarre, because I thought we were going to die. And do you think we didn't kill it?
Don't know.
I cast fist right down its throat, and it also has at least one eye that is now broken.
So at first I thought it was going to be not a real bird, and people in a suit, like a plane, maybe a metal thing flying in the sky.
I'm now imagining like a Victorian Caractacus Potts kind of character, like pulling like it's like rowing, like hello.
The little goggles.
It's like in Bug's Life where they make the bird out of the leaves and the twigs, and they do like like that. That's what I thought it was going to be, and then it absolutely wasn't. So
we just killed a beautiful thing in nature.
And I feel awful. Infinity feels weird. And it's going to be a whole thing.
Creations. Mm-hmm. Simon, you at the time mentioned some like world record holding birds / creatures.
Yeah, so the extant species, meaning not extinct species, with the largest wingspan is pretty sure it's the Andean condor, which is about 4 meters.
I think the condor is the heaviest.
Is it the albatross?
The wandering albatross with longer wings.
They're huge, aren't they?
Do you have a figure to hand for how big their wingspan is?
I do. 11 foot 10 inches, so 3.36 meters maximum sort of record.
So a fair bit smaller than 80 meters wingspan.
Yeah.
The largest in the fossil record is Argentavis magnificens, which was the a South American species of huge bird.
That's a cracking name.
I know.
Magnificence.
I'm pretty sure it just means it's like magnificent bird from Argentina, which is a dating profile if I ever heard one. And its wingspan is meant to be about 7 to 8 meters. So you're going by weight again. So longest wings historically extinct species is Pelagornis, a weird sort of giant seagull creature. Not Argentavis. Yeah.
Which is I've got 7.38 meters as the estimated wingspan.
But like pretty similar ballpark. Like it's not 80 meters basically.
It's wild that it's almost like twice as big as an albatross, as big as the current record holder.
Yeah.
My gosh. The obvious leap from there was thinking about things that are large and can fly.
Yeah.
Which
Planes.
Obviously takes me to pterosaurs.
Oh yeah.
Of course, yes, naturally pterosaurs.
There's no one else thinking of pterosaurs. So have you seen the pictures? So Asdarchid pterosaurs are the kind of family where all the huge ones, like if you've heard of Quetzalcoatlus.
I haven't, but I'm very excited.
It's got a cool name.
I don't think I know enough about dinosaurs, so tell me more.
It's not a dinosaur.
Is it a dinosaur?
It's not
a dinosaur.
Sorry, I didn't know. I told you I didn't know anything.
Not a dinosaur. Pterosaurs are sort of little side group, all of which I think were mostly little flappy flaps that over evolution turned into bigger flappy flaps. And these Asdarchid ones, where's my stat for that? I think something like 11 meter wingspan.
Whoa.
Yeah.
See, all of this is so impressive, but I'm like, well, it's not 80, is it?
No,
so like
80.
every time you're saying things, I'm like, Ali's bird was bigger.
We're still
Ali's imaginary bird.
Way off. So then the other thing that I was wondering is, okay, what are the limitations? Like, what is limiting birds, pterosaurs, from getting bigger? And I think birds potentially have more limitations than pterosaurs, which is why they never got that big. I did come across one interesting paper from a little while ago suggesting that one big bird problem is that the bigger they get, the bigger their like flight feathers have to get, and because they have to keep their feathers like quite in good working order, relatively delicate. Most birds molt once a year, so you have to grow new feathers. You have to have time to grow new feathers. And maybe that puts an upper limit on it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Presumably, if you scale up every part of a bird's anatomy, and the feathers are also getting larger and larger, presumably a large part of how feathers work is the separation between the individual follicles. I don't even know what you call them. The little spines of the feather.
Hard bit, yeah.
Yeah. The separation between those bits would have to be small enough that the air is viscous at that scale. So if you scale it up too large, then the gaps, if you scaled a seagull up to be 100 times bigger, the tiny gaps in its wing feathers would be too large for that to be true, and so it wouldn't actually get the same lift from the feathers.
So how tiny does that gap have to be before it wouldn't work?
You could probably work it out with a Reynolds number, so that the flow is still viscous. So the Reynolds number would be less than 1, but I wouldn't have the figures off the top of my head.
But
Simon, what's a Reynolds number, please?
Oh, it's a way of typifying of how a fluid flows, and if it flows in a viscous way or an inviscid way, which is basically is it gloopy or not. Like a very viscous fluid is something like treacle or Marmite, which we were talking about before the show started. Whereas something that would be completely inviscid would be something like air, which is inviscid to us. But if you zoomed in really close to something like a tiny gap in a bird's wing feathers, it would appear viscous because the viscosity is related to the length scale that you're looking at, and also the speed of the flow that you're looking at. So there's a bunch of numbers in atmospheric science that's like you use to kind of characterize a fluid. So there's like the Reynolds number, there's the Prandtl number, there's way more that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like a number that you use to say how gloopy is the bird, is the fluid, or how gloopy is how turbulent is your fluid, that kind of thing.
Love it. Gloopy number.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many reasons why just scaling something up can't work, right? If I was twice as big, my bones would have to be like, well, my mass would cube, and therefore my bones would have to be even more proportionally bigger and stronger to support my weight. Let alone flights, all sorts of reasons why you can't just make it bigger, which I'm kind of hoping gives us a little bit of leeway in trying to explain our giant 747 size bird, because we don't have to assume that it's necessarily the same as one
of our birds.
Yes,
right,
exactly. And I thought sort of pterosaurs. So and another whole big topic of that is not just how you fly, because big things can glide, and a lot of huge birds hardly flap. They're just gliding around. They're having a great time, not expending too much energy, which, obviously they've got a lot of weight. It would take a lot of energy. But how do they get up there? Is the other big thing.
Do they not?
Well,
I know nothing about bird mechanics.
It would probably plummet off a cliff at this scale, I'd imagine.
A lot of birds, like a lot of cliff nesting birds do jump off cliffs because that's where they're living. Although, as far as I can tell, all of them have the ability to take off from a flat surface, which I suppose is quite important for survival. There's a rumor that I also think is not true, that swifts, sort of small swifts, like they're a bit like swallows, and they can go for months without landing. Some people think that they can't take off from ground level, and they never land.
Oh.
The RSPB says they can, and if you find a swift on the ground, probably don't panic. It's probably fine. But swans, long run up.
I love watching swans take off. It's so funny. They're such beautiful birds, and then they're like,
psyching themselves up beforehand. I could do this.
But giant dinosaurs, potentially quite different. Potentially more, maybe a bit more like bats. This is one theory. So the thing about being a bird is, if you're gonna jump with your leg and then flap, it means you have to have, the bigger you are, it means you have to have bigger, stronger leg muscles in order to get the jump. In order to get up there. But once you're flying, your leg muscles are literally just extra weight that you now have to lug around everywhere just in order to get you off, to get you to lift off. So with pterosaurs, they had these, they walked on four legs, so they're these big Asdarchid pterosaurs, which is very cool. Like some of them were as tall as giraffes. Like actually wild. Like, look up pictures if you can of Quetzalcoatlus or Asdarchid pterosaurs. There's sort of a few different ones, and they're epic. But they have these big forelimbs that they can walk on and fly with, and the idea is that maybe they pushed themselves off with those wings, used that to jump.
Oh, okay.
With the sort of foot bit of the wings, so that it's the same muscles, right? It's all coming from the front. They're like the little legs at the back, hardly doing anything.
Oh,
it's all good. And we do know that our giant 747 bird, we crashed it at one point, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So it took
the
off
ground
from ground level, we think, unless it climbed a tree.
Oh, did it?
Were those big trees around?
Did it?
Yeah, but like there's big to humans and there's big to a 747 sized bird.
That's true.
Yeah, and did it land and then take off again? I don't think it ever
crashed,
landed.
and then we ran away.
It crashed into the back of the truck. Tried to eat
yes,
a bit of the truck.
Yes.
To be fair, if you're on the back of a fast-moving truck, you could probably just like open your wings and they'd be like, "See ya,"
like a parachute. Like
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's the point.
What was the is it the Skyhook system that was like the CIA developed, where it was like you could kind of do that. You could get that was getting picked up on a line. Like you had like a parachute that went up, and then you got picked up by an aircraft that like intercepted the line. It's the one that they use in the Dark Knight.
That's cool.
Oh yeah, I love that. I've seen that film.
Oh, a film that Bates has seen, everyone.
I watched The Matrix. I watched it.
We're very proud of education.
Whilst we were talking then, I was just looking up. Do you know what the largest plane, like the largest wingspan plane that's ever taken off?
No.
Is? So, like, there's a big...
Is it less than 80 meters?
I did. That's why I looked.
Yeah.
So the largest, according to the list of large aircraft on Wikipedia, is the Boeing 777X9, which has a wingspan of... sorry, that's the longest, which is 76.7 meters. The widest wingspan is the Stratolaunch, which is 117 meters.
Bigger than the bird! Hooray!
But once you're in the air, it's got the jets to get it up there. Presumably, like
maybe the bird had biological jets of some form.
Or it had some kind of like air sac within it with a lighter than air gas, so it made its
helium
buoyancy
pocket.
less.
It's amazing. Do you know about bird air sacs? Like birds are like not filled with air sacs, but their lungs are very, very efficient because it's essentially like one-way circulation. You know how certainly in the gas exchange bit, it has to go in and out. It's like not the best. So birds, although it comes in and out of the mouth, have a one-way circulation inside. They have all these air sacs, and the air sacs have bits that protrude into the bones. So people say, "Oh, birds have hollow bones." Like it's literally filled with air that's literally connected to the lungs. Like it's just sort of continuous. Like it's not like doing anything in there or like massively strongly pumping in or out or anything. But they think that these big pterosaurs, as Archaeopterosaurs were the same, have like really hollow bones with like struts. Means they're really flexible, means they're really light. And again, I'm just like thinking, okay, is there sort of just repeated expansions on this that could take the biology from different places?
I also assume that they'd have to have very efficient lungs because they have to breathe at such a greater altitude. The air being thinner, there's less oxygen to.
They can, yeah.
But
all of them can, even if I don't think that's why they evolved it. I think dinosaurs had it too. I think. So it was potentially before they evolved flight that they had this. It's just better. It's just more efficient.
So what you're saying is we have like inefficient.
Yeah.
We're bad.
Yeah.
What do humans have that other animals envy, other than like brain power? That, to be honest, that mostly just gives anxiety and depression. But,
society,
we have
anxiety and depression.
Tool use.
We are better runners.
Tool use. We're good at tools.
We're better runners than any other animal.
Are we?
Sustained.
Long distance.
Sustained.
Like no other animal has a hunting strategy that's just I will run you to death.
Yeah.
Which is difficult to believe when I'm trying to do like a long distance run. I'm like, my ancestors are looking down on me with shame.
Like, keep going, Simon.
Yeah.
That's your ancestor's voice.
This deer will run for another 30 miles. The calorific content will not be worth it.
Oh. The
medicine's kind of good. They probably wish they had a bit more of that in the animal kingdom.
Cass is saying in Twitch chat that humans have very effective scar tissue generation.
Oh,
nice.
That's cool.
I don't know enough about scar tissue to like question
scar tissue.
So what? We're better at recovery.
Yes, we've got gnarly
gnarly
scars.
I want.
Again, whilst we were just talking, does anybody know what the highest bird flight ever recorded is?
Oh no! Is it at a height where the jet pilots have to have their oxygen?
Yes.
What is it? Is it like Edge of Space?
How would a bird get to the edge of space?
I don't know. You're making it sound ridiculous.
Man, where is the edge of space? They keep changing the definition.
I love
let's not get into that.
Yeah, depending on if you're Jeff Bezos or not.
They haven't been to space. They just went into 0G. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, they were by the Kármán line definition, which is the most common definition. They were briefly in space, but
briefly. Okay. They
Very
sort of like touched space and then went, "Whoa!"
They were like, we made it. I touched the butt, and then they go back down.
I touched the butt.
The the altitude record for a bird is 11,300 meters. That was a vulture, a Ruppel's vulture, which I'm pretty sure that one was when it hit a plane.
So it just got taken that high up.
No, it was flying and minding its own business, and then just collided with a plane. How unlucky do you have to be? You've
all
got
that air up there.
I did find an estimate that like Quetzalcoatlus could fly at 15,000 feet.
Wow.
I'm just hang on. 15,000 feet. That would
seems
be
pretty good.
Well,
oh no, but you said
not
meters.
Not as good as a buzzard. He said meters. Yeah.
There is a record of a white stork flying at 16,000 meters. Sorry, 16,000 feet. So for about 5 kilometers. Also, like a vulture's a big bird to hit with.
Yeah, I was going to say, was the plane okay? I mean, I'm not going to ask, was the vulture okay?
Well, it doesn't say which part of the plane it hit. I mean, normally, bird strike means it hits the engine, but like, Ruppel's vulture, how much do you normally weigh? I'm just imagining the pilot being like, "Is that a like it was just going so fast." They weigh between 6.5 and 9 kilograms.
They're tiny.
That's not tiny. That's big. Try picking up a 9-kilogram bird.
I just thought vultures were bigger than that. In my head, vultures are huge. Like
very light compared to their size. I guess that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They do have. I think I'm right in saying that vultures also have the best sense of smell in the fossil record. It's like number 1 is the. I'm not sure if it's the Ruppel vulture or some kind of vulture, and then number 2 is a T-Rex. They think. Based on the size.
How do they? Yeah, okay.
There's like the size of the olfactory cavity or something like that, and like the bit of the brain they think would be used for smell processing.
Amazing, that's cool.
Which is why one of the reasons why they think it was a scavenger predator rather than being all cool and action-like. It just kind of snuck in and was like, "This is mine now," and scare away all the other animals. Like, if a T-Rex comes over to your kill and is like, "This is mine," I don't think you're going to argue with it. You know.
No.
You can't really challenge it to an arm wrestle. You're like, ha!
It would still probably win, though. The minute you're holding its arm, you're fucked. It's just getting to the arm because it's so little.
I mean, I don't think the T-Rex would understand the concept of an arm wrestle. I feel like you take it.
That's fair.
And it would just eat.
To reach, would it, like if you were grabbing on its arm, maybe its head would. I don't know. Maybe that's.
I think it can bend. It can bend.
It's got a long snout. Like,
if I stay here, like between the 2 arms, I'm perfectly safe.
That's a great image of someone just doing like pull-ups on the T-Rex arms.
The T-Rex is just like, what is this like hairless ape doing? Like, actually, it would have a concept of what a mammal is, presumably.
This large gangly mouse.
This large gangly mouse.
Wait, were mice around with the dinosaurs?
Yeah, mammals existed.
Like small mammals were mouse-like, right? Also, I don't think a T-Rex would know what a mouse was or how to speak English, but yes, there were definitely mice.
Okay, there are a lot of problems with our story. Okay,
mouse.
There are a lot of problems with the story. Anyway, back to the 80-meter wingspan bird.
Yeah, I have a creepy question about the 80-meter wingspan bird, which is, what were the evolutionary pressures that led to the evolution of an 80-meter wingspan bird?
Oh, that's terrifying.
100-meter wingspan bird. An even bigger bird that it had to compete with.
Well, like, why do things get big? Like, avoiding predation. Like, think of like elephants and like huge herbivores, like is it Titanosaurus? Like those, like the long necks. They were big. Is there a giant predator out there somewhere?
Or it could be.
Is it like territory? Flying over larger ranges, like having to have a huge territory for some reason.
Why are whales so big? Because that's not for predatory pressures, right? I guess must be for a different reason.
I would guess that would be for food, because again, they have huge territories, cover a huge amount of ground. And all the like vegetarian ones have to similarly eat a huge amount of food, and if they've sort of cleared one area, they have to go somewhere else.
If they weren't so big, they wouldn't have to eat as much food.
Which might then come back to competition.
Yeah, okay.
But what if we're looking at this the wrong way? What if there's such an abundance of food, which I think is the case for whales? Like there are areas of the world's oceans where there's just so much krill because there's like strong upwelling or whatever. But so whatever this bird feeds on, which apparently is trucks, like there's just such a high concentration of trucks in this area.
We don't know if it attacked us.
So I also looked up. We had a big sort of worry about this. Was the bird did the thing where it kind of moved its head to look at us.
Yes,
which I think
just through the side of its
some birds do that in order. I think or they're actually I think they're quite likely to go like that in order to sort of get a fake binocular vision by getting two views and then sort of combining it. Because a lot of birds have quite a narrow bit of binocular vision, but most of it's to the side. But this one. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean it's herbivorous, but a lot of predators have more forward-facing eyes, binocular vision, both, if you're a hawk to like see something here really accurately, or if you're close up, I guess to kind of grab it.
Oh.
But trucks aren't, if it was eating trucks, that's not...
I don't think it was eating trucks. Well, I would hope someone would have said, although they had the gun on the top of the truck, right? So they were prepared for something.
Yeah,
this isn't a one-off incident.
No, but is it always that bird? Like
they didn't say
that kind of bird.
They didn't say like, it's Bob again.
No, you kill him and he just comes back. Yeah.
But how many of these birds are there? What food is there? That there's at least a population of. This is a frequent enough event that there are turrets mounted to the top of these, trucks.
But then they have the turrets for another purpose. The turrets could be for like blowing a hole in the mountain if there's like a rock slide or something.
I guess.
So there might be another reason for having the gun, and they were just like, oh, good. While the giant bird attacks, we'll use that.
Do you think Ali's going to be watching this and going, yes, other reason for
why they had the thing, other than it would be useful for the players?
if they are carnivorous, they could be eating lots of small things, like the Asdarchid pterosaurs probably ate on the ground. They probably weren't like flying around. They probably were stalking around on the ground, pecking at lizards and things.
Did they think they were carnivorous, pescivorous? Like what did they think their main diet was?
I think all the pterosaurs were probably at least omnivorous, not carnivorous from like insects. But Asdarchids, like the art depicts them with these like tiny little lizard things running away and like the giant. Okay, so the Asdarchids also had like the most ridiculously large heads and like long beaks and stuff, and just like pecking down. And the Asdarchids as well, like seemed to be pretty well suited to walking around. There was like one study that showed that over sort of pterosaur evolution, it's actually very cool that like from the time they first appeared in the fossil record to I think it's like something like 150 billion years later, like you can see them evolving and they get more efficient at flying. Like looking at the aerodynamics, they're evolving to be gradually better at flying. Whereas the Asdarchids don't. They don't seem to be getting more efficient. If you look at their sort of fore and hind limb proportions, they like are maybe slightly more similar to like a sheep or ungulates than they would be to like a little flappy pterosaur. And yeah, there's a lot of suggestions. I mean, some people thought they couldn't fly at all. I think that's like a very minority view. They're certainly well adapted to terrestrial life.
There is I'm just looking at the wiki now. In pterosaurs more broadly, so like the whole group of flying reptiles at that time, it's now believed they were traditionally fish eaters, now understood to have included land animal hunters, insectivorous species, and fruit eaters.
Oh, like that.
Banana.
Like megabats. Incidentally,
and their wings.
I love the fact that they are technically called megabats. Like that is the name.
Is that what that means?
Yeah, like
terror.
No. Terra would come from
Earth, surely.
Wing. Yeah, Terron is wing.
Okay.
It's wing lizard. Pterosaur. But,
wing lizard.
Because bats take their name from hand. It's like Chiroptera, I think is their family name. So they are hand wing. But yeah, mega bats are like the large part, the larger species, like flying foxes and stuff. But they seem to occupy quite similar niches then, like all kinds of food.
So with the bat thing, and you were saying earlier about the gaps in the feathers, Simon, maybe not being able to be close enough together to sort of get the needed like flow of air. Could we be looking at more of like a bat style wing on this bird in order to get the lift?
There is a paper that I've read on this actually, because I did a video on this a while back, that seems to suggest that as a bat-like species gets bigger, so if you have like a membrane between the fingers and that's how you fly, there is a theoretical limit to how big a bat can get before it physically can't move the fingers fast enough to generate, like, to flap frequently enough in order to fly, basically. Like, there's basically a figure, and I wish I could remember this in better detail, that's like 2 curves of how quickly you can move the fingers and how much lift you can get, and they meet at a point. And that point is one of the species that we see today, which I think is the golden flying fox, which is, they think, as big as a bat can physically get. Which is
so not 80 meters then.
So not 80 meters, unfortunately.
Wow, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, so I read another quote which says that someone who reckoned the bats could mechanically get bigger, and it's just an ecological limitation. Okay. But I don't know which one was first, or if those refer. This is talking about like maybe albatross-sized bats.
Right. I mean, you're the biologist of.
This was just that was one thing I read. But I also like bats. I'm a bat fan now, having read like how clever their wings are. Like the fact that birds' wings are just like stiff and don't move, and bats' wings full of muscles, constantly adapting. And like pterosaurs, that was a membrane as well, like constantly moving, like the flexibility and maneuverability of being able to just like minutely adjust like every tiny piece, and they're all like woo woo, and then they let them sit down.
They're way better flyers. They're way better flyers.
Amazing.
And they're faster. The fastest species of birds and bats is a bat in terms of powered flight.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm going to have to look.
So maybe the wings on the bird that we saw were fake wings, and they were actually membranes that looked like wings. With Alex said they had grey stripes on.
Here we go. The fastest, not just the fastest bat or the fastest bird, but the fastest mammal in terms of self-propelled motion is the Mexican free-tailed bat that can reach speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. I'm sorry, what?
That's very quick.
It's so fast.
100 miles an hour. Is that like on a turn or something? Like rather than
I have a new science stuff
actually like in a straight line. Oh, don't trust them.
So the fastest bird on record is a
I work for New Science, so I'm allowed to say that, everyone. Sorry, that was
just to link it back to what we mentioned before. The fastest bird for level flights, like mechanically self-sustaining flight, is a common swift, which is about 112 kilometers per hour. And basically, this team used trackers on bats to just track their lateral movement, and all the bats achieved speeds of about 100 kilometers an hour. One bat logged a top speed of 160 kilometers per hour, so 100 miles an hour.
Whoa!
So I mean, they are thinking that there might be an error in
the data.
But yeah, it might be an error in the data because it's not a perfect way of measuring it. But I'm pretty sure there was another species that could go faster anyway, but I couldn't off my head. It's been a while since I did this video.
I think we should wrap up on giant birds, but one more theory that I would like to posit, which is our Dungeons and Dragons science game takes place in a world where humans and sort of human descendants have a lot of cybernetic modifications and implants. So maybe trying to explain the biology of a 80-meter long bird is slightly flawed because it is in fact part robot.
So what you're saying is like a sparrow went into the mechanics quarters.
They added.
Oh, hello, dear! We'll give you these 40-meter wings. And away
look at someone very accurate. That's exactly what she sounded like.
At some point, someone might get the enlarge or reduce spell, and then we're gonna have to explain it. So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
There's so many spells coming up that I am terrified of because I'm not gonna. I'm gonna end up not casting cool spells because I'm gonna be like, I don't know how to explain it with science. So we have to be prepared, everyone. it's going to get more and more ridiculous, these speculations, than a very big bird.
We're on easy mode right now.
Also, question. Did everyone else, when they first saw the bird, think it was going to be like the equivalent of a dragon?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
We don't know what the stats were. How big are
we didn't do like any like physical damage. Like we didn't roll damage, I don't think, at all. We just
You mean we didn't get hit?
Because I assumed. Yeah, we hit it, but we didn't roll damage for like the gun at all.
Oh.
We just hit it. So like
too much fun.
Because I thought it was going to be like once we've got like a few hits in, it'll just fly away.
Yeah.
But then we killed it, and I was like, wait, how did we kill this?
Right.
So yeah.
I think everyone's really clamouring for
genital pain.
Everyone wants genital pain.
And Simon didn't want it to be finished early, and it's already not early, so
we had some technical difficulties. It's
technical
issues.
Yeah. But also, I really want to know about
so Shamini, can you explain why everybody is hyped about genital pain?
Well, we're a people with a specific group of specific kind of interest. We have certain things that we enjoy, namely Dungeons and Dragons and science. And in our Dungeons and Dragons game, someone was it punched?
I think it was me.
Simon punched him.
I kicked the zombie guy in the nuts.
It was a kick, not a punch.
I thought you punched him.
Oh no, I did. I went the whole like.
I think
so Simon's character punched a gentleman in the genitals.
He was no gentleman.
And at that point in the fight, having been exhausted by other things as well, I think, said figure keeled over, unconscious.
I imagine there was like a metallic ding as a made contact, and he like went cross-eyed and just keeled over to the side.
Simon's arm is metallic. We don't know whether the genitals were or not. It's possible.
That's true.
Anything's possible.
It's possible. I mean, that's not something I've looked into around this, so I'm afraid I haven't looked into him having metal genitals.
So first question: Can being punched in the balls make you fall unconscious?
In theory, it's a big can of worms we're opening up there. Okay. So I think the one thing is, technically what you did there was you dropped his hit points to 0. Now, luckily, Simon, you said non-lethal damage, because if you'd said lethal damage, we'd have had to explain how it killed you, and there is no, just being punched in the nuts can't kill you, everyone. Congratulations.
He hurt bad.
Yes. So, but now, obviously, you could theoretically get hit so hard in the nuts that like internal bleeding happens, and then you may die. And I think we've lost Shamini.
That's a wonderful.
Shamini, no.
She was so looking forward to the genital pain as well.
Oh, she really just so excited. Can we like kick her out and then she rejoins?
I want to keep her around like this. This is great.
Just like this? Okay. So basically, can you fall unconscious? So you can't die straight away from being. Congratulations, everyone. You feel free to go and get hit in the balls as much as you want.
I mean, could we put an asterisk on that? Because presumably, if you got hit to the extent that, I don't know, you tore your scrotum open, you could die from the bleeding.
Exactly. So the only way you're ever going to die from it is from a follow-up complication. So the actual punch and the actual pain you feel, that it's not going to kill you. Now, falling unconscious, however, so we look at like fainting, for example. There's loads of different ways of being unconscious. So you're unconscious when you're asleep. I'm pretty sure punching someone in the balls can't make them fall asleep. I didn't look into that, so you never know. But
good night.
Good night. You're unconscious. We can make people unconscious with like various anesthesia. And then also you can like knock your head and go unconscious that way from like the movement of your brain being shook around. That will come back to that. But the other way is fainting. So when you faint, it's basically you don't get enough blood to your brain and your body goes, shit, we need to get blood to the brain. I know, I'll make them lie flat on the floor. And there's a few different ways that it happens. One of which is called vasovagal syncope, which I have trouble saying. And it's all to do with the vagus nerve. So your vagus nerve is what recalibrates your body if you go into fight or flight mode. So say you get a massive rush of adrenaline, something's about to attack you. Your vagus nerve, once everything's calmed down, goes, I've worked it out. This is where we should be. Hello, Shamini. Welcome back.
You left us on a wonderful freeze frame.
It was a great freeze frame. Oh no. Sharmony, speak to us.
If I punch myself in the genitals, will it fix this?
Yes.
Oh no.
You might faint.
Time to hit the sack.
Unfortunately, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm on my phone hotspot and it's not really doing the job.
Oh no.
So do carry on and I'll try and get my internet working again.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So vagus nerve, fight or flight. So you, I don't know, example of fight or flight. A big bird is about to attack you, right? You get a rush of adrenaline, you get ready to fight.
I have no good insight. It's very, very sad.
Show me.
Give me a little bit longer.
It's such a shit show.
Your vagus nerve counteracts the adrenaline basically and is trying to like calm your body down. And sometimes it over calibrates. And that's basically what it's doing here. So it will, I'm not explaining this well at all. You get stressed and then the hormones are released and then your vagus nerve goes, I'm going to correct it. But what it does instead is it drops your blood pressure and your brain goes, oh, I can't do it anymore. And you fall over. Now that can be triggered by, that's what happens when people see blood. If you get too hot, the vagus nerve is trying to fix it, fails miserably. Basically, it's your vagus nerve just not doing particularly well.
So what does it do well? Like you've described several scenarios in which it does very badly.
Your vagus nerve is really useful, and most of the time it's fine. But it's sort of, how do I explain what it does? It's such an important nerve that it does a lot of things.
And where physiologically does it connect? So from where to where?
Oh God, it starts in the. Oh my goodness, my neuroscience degree is all gone. This is where we need Ali back. So it's a cranial nerve. So it starts in your sort of base of your brain, and then it goes from the brain stem, I believe, like just various around the body.
Right.
So and it's all the autonomic nervous system basically, which is the various parasympathetic, sympathetic, and hang on, I'm going to Google it quickly and just check what it actually does. Sorry, please hold everyone. So the vagus nerve connects. Oh my God, I'm actually losing my brain. Sorry, everyone.
This is very ironic considering
I don't know what's happening about. I know, right? I'm very warm. So, okay, here we go. We'll use this. The 4 key functions of the vagus nerve are sensory, special sensory, which is taste sensation behind the tongue, which I've never heard of. So
yeah, sometimes you get flavours that you're like, you feel it in your throat or something.
But is that behind the tongue?
Well, it depends what they mean by behind the tongue. Do they mean like laterally behind the tongue, or
I'm reading from medical news today, so I can't
proximal below the tongue? Like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Motor, so it does various things to do with swallowing and speaking, and then the parasympathetic nervous system, which is like the digestive tract, breathing, and your heart functioning. So when it goes wrong, it's bad, i.e. can make you faint. And one of the things that can trigger this is being scared that you're going to get hurt. So what we can feasibly say is he was so scared that he just got punched in the balls and it was in so much pain that he fainted. That is technically feasible. I couldn't find any, however, examples of someone fainting from being punched in the nuts, but we can just assume that he was terrified of it. His vagus nerve went, even though the rest of the fight he was perfectly fine.
So actually he fainted before I punched him in the balls.
Potentially, yeah. The second
the
before.
wind-up, the Popeye-like wind-up.
Yeah, he was like, oh no, started going, you hit him. Now, fainting, however, is very quick. Like, you faint and you pretty much instantly, the blood goes back to your brain and it resets and you're back in the room. So something had to knock him out cold for him to be unconscious.
Because when you do non-lethal damage in D&D, how long are they actually unconscious for?
It's not, I don't know.
It's not
I don't know, that's a good question. I think you just sort of, normally if you do that, you're then like very quickly tying them up or doing something and then like slapping them to like wake them back up again. Right. So, Sharmony, I think we might have you. Sharmony, D&D question. If you do non-lethal damage and knock someone out, how long are they unconscious for?
I think technically forever.
Then don't they start doing death saves?
Well, the point of doing non-lethal damage is that they don't.
Don't.
But presumably, if you didn't wake them up. I mean, as a DM, I would just rule it that like eventually they would wake up.
Felt Lagan in Twitch chat is saying 1d4 hours.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That sounds plausible, but I don't know enough to dispute it.
Yeah.
So, but I think basically something had to happen so that would work. And fainting, vasovagal syncope just can't explain that. So it's got to be from his brain jiggled about too much in the skull. So basically, when you get knocked unconscious, for example, a boxer getting punched in the head, if Simon had punched him in the head, this would have been it would be much easier. But so if you imagine it, your brain gets, if this is your skull and your brain sits here, it sits in like cerebrospinal fluid. And if you get punched in the side of the head, the brain sort of stays floating, hits the side, and then bounces back. And it just does that very quickly. And that's how you get sort of trauma to the brain. And it can also like twist your brain. And what that does, the best way I've heard it explained, is it basically short circuits the brain. Because your brain suddenly gets incredibly stimulated. Some of the nerves can even like break, like tiny nerve fibers, and they release like toxins, and your brain just goes, shit. And it's the best way for it to deal with that is it basically just goes poof, and then just goes, I'm going to stop, lie down on the floor. Basically, every time you go unconscious is your body trying to be horizontal to get blood going back to your brain. Your brain is by far the most important organ, and your body just wants to do everything it can to like keep it functioning. And that's what happens when you fall unconscious, and that can last longer because it's sort of more intense damage. Now there are other situations where we sort of like purposefully make people go unconscious in like surgery, and I got kind of interested in like what actually happens in the brain when you're like under anesthetic, because I was like, wait, it's not the same as like trauma. So basically what it is they give these drugs, and what they do is that instead of like, they don't turn the brain off. It's not like just saying brain shut down. Now I've never been under general anesthetic, but you know, people talk about counting backwards from 10, getting to like 6, and then they wake up and the operation's done and it's been hours. And it feels like they've just sort of switched you off for a bit. But actually what they seem to do is, and they're still not sure because neuroscience, bit of guesswork going on, who knows? It's just the brain. They're sort of isolating different processes in the brain. So basically your brain is still kind of doing its thing, but it's not really talking to each other anymore. It's not highly connected like it normally is. It's just like a lot of little islands all doing their own thing, but no like full consciousness kind of going in. And then also in anesthesia, you've also got loads of drugs which are actually blocking pain receptors and things, obviously, to stop intense pain. But I found that really interesting, and it's not really anything to do with it, but go on. Sorry.
Islands. If you can do something to stop overall communication but not local communication, does that suggest that there is some qualitative difference between local communication and overall thing?
It suggests that it's one of the things that suggests that consciousness arises from a whole brain area. So we don't have an area of the brain. No one has yet found an area of the brain that is consciousness. That's not a thing. So there's a lot of theories in neuroscience where the idea of consciousness is just the entire brain all kind of functioning together. There's a cool theory that I learned about in my degree, and I don't know if it's still valid, but that like different oscillations of nerves. So say you're thinking of, this is a very basic, drawing it right down to a basic example. Say you're thinking of a blue triangle. The nerves that say code for blue are like oscillating at a certain frequency, and then so do the nerves that code for a triangle. And that oscillation together tells the overall consciousness of the brain that it's a blue triangle. But
oscillating.
And when you say oscillation, do you mean a physical oscillation?
I mean a physical oscillation.
What?
Wait,
so it's vibrating.
No,
I thought
well, sorry. Is it physical?
Brain goes brrr.
Brain goes brrr. I think that's right. Hang on. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to Google that because I'm sure that's right.
Whenever we have this discussion that basically ends up with the brain is the most complex known thing in the universe, I always think of that meme of Obama awarding a medal to Obama, because it's the human brain saying the human brain is the most complicated thing in the universe.
Really good. Okay, neural oscillate. So it's brainwaves. So it's the fact that the brainwaves of those areas are going at the same thing, whereas other areas of your brain. The neural oscillation. So it's the pattern of activity. So it's how. Oh, this is when I wish Ali was here. He'd explain this so well. So it's actually. If I say action potentials. So
the signal, the electronic signals that sort of go.
So electronic, but also chemical, really. So it's
electronic.
Well, electrochemical, I think, is fair.
Yeah, is that right?
So synchronized activity of large numbers of neurons can give rise to macroscopic oscillations, which can be observed as brainwaves. So when like all these
still
firing
in one go.
Yeah, but very, 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 very quickly. I think that's right.
Okay, good.
Yeah, okay, and I get very nervous that I'm making this, but I mean, getting into the whole consciousness thing is a whole other thing, because at some point we are going to have to talk about whether my character could have consciousness. This is the measure
of a man. That's the Star Trek episode that is about basically that. Yeah.
I feel like I've gone very far off track on genital pain.
Yeah, so what I took away from that was that, like, it's not actually the pain that causes somebody to go unconscious; it's the fear of the pain.
That is the vasovagal thing. Yeah. So I was convinced that you could fall unconscious because of pain, right? But I can't find anywhere, and someone please find it, because it makes sense in my head, but I couldn't find any papers saying pain causes it.
Yeah.
All the torture scenes I've ever seen in films, like, strongly kind of depend on that being a thing.
Is that just exhaustion?
Yeah.
I always told myself that if I ended up getting burned at the stake, that I wouldn't feel most of it, because I would just black out if I got. You'd
be very scared, so your vagus nerve might try and fix it and mess up and make you faint.
So before they even light the
fainting's
fire,
no good.
Before they even light the fire, I'd just be like, oh. the least rewarding heretic burning that anyone had ever seen. It would just be me slumped.
That's not for long enough. That's not for long enough for anything.
No, but I wake up and go, just immediately. Every time I'd be so scared that I would immediately faint again.
Fun. That's still not. No, that's still not good.
20 seconds of silence and then.
Oh no, I don't want to. But anyway, what I haven't talked about, which I did want to talk about, is testicles, because I just thought it was really.
Tell me about testicles.
Obviously, they sort of like dangle there, and I was like, okay, weird. And I didn't quite. I think I knew this, but I never really thought about like the reason that they dangle is because they hold very important sperm for evolution, and like your body is too warm most of the time. So they're like, I know, we have to keep it outside the body. And then also, apparently the reason they're squishy is because if they were solid, they could break. Whereas instead of, like, if you hit them now, they just sort of, like, squish. And it's not very nice, but they very rarely do anything more than just sort of get smushed for a second. But if they were, like, solid, they could, like, actually break. And then that's really bad, because then you definitely can't, like, make babies anymore.
Is anyone else in Twitch chat crossing their legs right now? Is it just me?
This is another thing I wanted to talk about, was the like empathy of it.
Yes, which Cass brought up actually. Yeah, last when this first happened. Yeah. So for people who perhaps weren't there for the stream before, or who aren't watching the stream live right now, Cass said in the previous stream that she, when she transitioned, prior to the transition, she experienced empathetic pain if she saw a guy getting kneed in the nuts or something. There is something in guys that we just kind of reflexively just
I want to know the science of that as well, this like empathetic pain thing.
But then post transition doesn't have that phenomenon anymore, which is there's two fascinating things going on there.
Yeah, I mean the actual like the empathetic pain. So Simon, you're sort of saying crossing your legs. You're not feeling it though, or are you? Are you feeling the pain?
No, it's more.
There's a very big difference of like worrying about it and making you go, "Oh, I'd really hope that doesn't happen," and actually like that sensation.
Yeah, like I am in saying I'm crossing my legs. I am very now aware that these are very valuable and like grapes. Like whereas like if I see somebody getting punched in the nuts, that's then like there is like an instinctive movement that you kind of feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I don't know quite the psychology behind that. I expect it is just your brain sort of. So when you see something happen, you have things called mirror neurons which fire, and they kind of tell you what's going on. It kind of helps your brain work out what it is. And you get people who have like mirror touch synesthesia, which is awful because if they see someone getting punched in the face, they physically feel it. And there's been tests that show that they literally are in pain, and it's
It's the Matrix.
Sensational.
It's like in the Matrix when they say if something happens to you in the Matrix, it happens to you in real life. I always thought that was bullshit, but that's actually real.
It's like in the Matrix, kind
Wow.
of, except it's with someone else, not a version of you.
It's almost like your body's watching this thing happening and being like, oh yes, yep, I got punched in the face. Yeah. Yes.
But there are people who have this and they can barely like leave the house because if they see someone crying, they start crying. If they see someone fall and hurt themselves, they immediately feel like they've fallen and they've hurt themselves. Like it can be really horrible condition. It's very, very rare for it to be that extreme.
What are they like at orgies?
I don't know, I have to say. They probably have a lovely time, but also maybe too much of a lovely time.
Wherever you just like close your eyes, like this is too much.
Like, numb pain upon witnessing it. Also, Cass has said, guy getting smacked in the face feels the empathetic pain. Guy getting smacked in the groin, nothing. So that is really interesting, Cass. I don't have a scientific reason for it other than I think. Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me, but I don't know how to describe that with words.
No.
Girl power, exactly. Girl power. Thank you, Cass. That's exactly. I think it is. I think you've the power of the Spice Girls.
Animals have internal testicles. It turns out way more than I thought. Because I knew that dolphins did, and they're all nice and streamlined. And I'm like, yeah, dolphins.
But
and
they're in the cold water.
Well, but apparently they still have to have quite a lot of like blood taking the heat away.
Yeah.
It's still too blooded, right?
Can you imagine?
But like when it's cold, nice ones go up.
The dolphin's just swimming along, and there's just a nutsack behind going.
That's why. But also,
when it's in warm water, it's like really far behind.
Rhinoceros. What does a rhinoceros need internal testicles?
Does a rhinoceros have internal testicles?
Yeah, elephants.
Are you sure? Actually, that's okay. Right.
That's
animals with internal testicles.
We are non-mammals. Well,
I mean, it's the 200 IQ play. Do you think that animals with internal testicles then get that mirroring pain?
Platypuses have internal testicles. All monotremes do, apparently. So there you go.
It's odd.
Because lions are known to attack the testicles, according to
some marsupials with external testicles. Whales have internal testicles. Very interesting.
I have to admit, I had never considered animals having internal testicles, I guess. Like, I just never really thought about it.
No. The other cool thing about well, not cool for anyone with testicles who gets it in them, but you get the sickness, the stomach pain.
Yeah,
I hear. So that is because there is a nerve that connects your stomach to your testicles. Because when you develop, your testicles develop up by the kidneys, and as they descend, they just stay connected. So that's why that referred pain happens.
So you feel it in your stomach, like as if your stomach was getting punched. Or
I think it's more like normal.
It's nausea.
I don't know. I've never been.
Oh, okay.
Nausea, yeah. And also that will then, and again, that connects to the vagus nerve, which can also make you sick. So thanks, vagus nerve.
Is that connected to like the rest and digest response as well? That when you have like a full stomach, there's like that urge to like breed, like it's built into things. Like when you have a full stomach and like you're sated and you're in a safe place. I'm not making this up.
It makes sense. Like evolutionary, it makes sense as well, right? You're well fed, you know that you're in a good
stomach.
like physiological. Yeah, I was going to say when I'm really full, I don't get that.
Yeah, doing anything too energetic. My little mind.
Lie back and think of England, Charmin, it'll be fine.
Okay, too much.
Just roll me to bed. Speaking of which, I need to eat dinner tonight, by the way.
Yeah. Let me round up. Right, so genital pain. So basically, could you go unconscious from being punched in the testicles? Kind of. You would potentially faint immediately. So you would faint from the punching the testicles, i.e. from the actual thing. And then we're going to have to assume that he fell and hit his head very hard on the floor to actually keep him unconscious. But it works. The science is there. Well done, us. Hooray. Yeah. Next time, Simon, don't punch people in the testicles to knock them out.
I should have gone for the head.
It's not as efficient. Yeah. Aim for the head. We did it.
That's wonderful.
That was the DnDebrief this week.
We finally reached the genital pain. We got some bonus Big Bird content. this has been brilliant. Thanks so much, everyone.
Before we go, we should explain what is happening for the next 2 weeks.
Yep,
yes, we should.
So basically, because we are, a lot of us are kind of all over the place this month. We are. Is it
a lot
just
of us,
me?
Simon?
I'm very well put together.
I was going to say I'm here
perfectly.
Okay,
In control.
I've made
I'm all
other
over the
plans now.
I'm looking at my diary right now, and it look. I mean, Google Calendar. It looks like a very energetic paintball match has happened. There's a lot going on. So basically, we are still going to do the next 2 weeks of shows. So we're going to have a RPGeeks episode with the D&D adventures next week, and we're going to do a DnDebrief the following week. But they are not going to be live. We're going to pre-record them. We're going to broadcast them on Twitch. We'll be in chat as much as we can. I think most of us. I think it's basically just me that can't. Actually.
Yeah, we'll be there.
But we'll record those live. But we'll still be there'll still be a show basically. The final Thursday is not going to happen because I can't remember why that. Well, I'm away, but I think is anyone else away?
I think it's because you're away, and in terms of like timing everything to do it, we just decided it wasn't worth it.
So the last Thursday in August, we're going to have a nice holiday, take another break, enjoy the world. But then, oh my god,
this September,
it's not as exciting. It's not as exciting as we're making out to be.
RPGeeks coming to you now on a Wednesday.
What? A Wednesday?
We're moving it. We moved the show.
We're moving the date.
This doesn't really annoy anyone.
So
yeah, I'm sorry if you can only do Thursdays. That's really.
So starting on the 1st of September, we're going to be doing the show on Wednesdays. Exactly the same, alternating weeks, but we'll be doing it on Wednesdays instead of Thursdays, basically. But yeah, the next 2 weeks are going to be special ones because they're going to be pre-recorded and definitely problem-free. They will be flawless, I have no doubt. Because this week was the test run for doing that. This was actually pre-recorded. People in chat didn't even realise.
Stop it.
That's not true.
That would have been very impressive. Psychically linked.
So just so people are aware, the next 2 weeks are going to look a bit different, and there won't be any live interaction. But then they'll be there. There'll be a week off, and then we're back on Wednesdays.
And if you're listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube, they'll be like this still. So, congrats.
More power to you, the people of VOD Goblins.
VOD Goblins.
To follow us on all of the social medias.
Please.
We post little clips and relevant photos, such as Ali as a stag.
I posted a meme on Instagram the other day, and it's done very well by a lot of people who don't follow us, and they didn't follow us from it, but they liked it. So.
It was a good meme. We like
it. Was a good meme. It was a good meme.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
follow
it.
us. Come back next week. Tell us if there's any science you want to hear, and we'll see you next week with some D&D adventures.
In the mines.
Mines.
And they call it a mine. A mine! Bye, everyone.
Bye.